for instance, we did Mike Tyson. We do Mike Tyson, and we had a photographer we had never had before because our guy couldn't come, so he put us on to somebody else here. And the dude is basically in every shot of Mike Tyson. Like, he's just in all the shots. But, you know, we always have the caveat, or we always have the backup of having the roaming camera. The guy that had the roaming camera and the cards for it deletes his camera. So he deletes like this standing camera and the roaming joint, right? So now we're down 2 cameras. And so we basically like had to piece that together. And the reason, so we put a disclaimer on it in the beginning because it wasn't going to look like our show because we didn't have our stuff.
Right.
You know, and then he was handing out mushrooms to people and weed. So I was high, you know, at the end. We like Freddie T took the mushroom because we were scared of Tyson, right? Like, you can't just not take Tyson's mushrooms if he offers them. And then he ain't had no drawers on, man. It was just a real, you know, it was just one.
Wait, was it visible? Like,
that he had no drawers on? Yeah, dog, he had no drawers on. And like soccer shorts, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
No, you having a podcast and it's just like, you see that shit and it's like, all right, like a new top. You gotta stop for a minute.
That's what Chan said. Chan was like, man, you just got your meat out.
Yeah, now Chan was probably like, he probably ran with that though. He probably
toward the end, we were all frightened for the most part.
I feel that, yeah.
So
welcome to Varsity House Podcast with your host, Shaun Crawford. On this episode, we got the main man, RC, Ryan Clark. You might see him on ESPN. You might see him hosting this podcast, The Pivot. But we stopped in New York and we got him on the show. Also, my co-host right to my left, Carl Jones. We appreciate, you know, all the support that you've given us so far, and we're excited for a great episode.
Let's get it.
Yeah, now Chan was probably like, he probably ran with that though. He probably
toward the end, we were all frightened for the most part.
I feel that, yeah.
So you try to be as respectful as you can with him, because like, I don't want to get slept. I'm too grown to get punched in the face. I know I ain't got no chin. So.
And even though, like, I saw you were asking people, like, what they favorite, you know, what was some of their favorite podcasts and some of their moments on their podcast. And so, obviously, you mentioned the Mike Tyson one, but you've had a ton of great guests. So what would you say was your favorite podcast or your favorite guest?
My son was on the show. That was, like, one of our first guests. That was cool, just in the sense of to see him, you know, the way that he presents himself in that type of form. You know, you kind of get to see your work as a parent, you know, before the world. So that one was special to me. Mike Tomlin I just thought it was just a master class in leadership, but it was all stuff I knew, right? All stuff I'd heard, all the conversations I've had, but he's so kind of like guarded and coach all the time, TV-wise or press conference-wise. People don't get to see it. Obviously, Michael Beasley, I think, was the moment that made our show The Pivot, in truth. And what's so crazy about that day is we shot 4 shows that day. So, and I'll say this is probably one of the few places I've said it. We shot Candace Parker, but it's never been released because we couldn't, because she has a doc coming out. And, you know, when you get around certain people, like, she got relaxed and she felt like she said too much.
Right.
And we have, our agents both work for the same company, so they called me and they said we needed to take some out, but it was so much she gave us that she had to take out. It wasn't even gonna be our show.
Right.
So we shoot her, bro, in Atlanta that morning. We all hop on a plane and we fly to Miami. So we were supposed to shoot, like, Fred thought we had Derrick Henry and Tyreek Hill lined up. So it's like a dope day.
Right.
Like, you get Candace Parker, those 2 active players. Oh, that's a wrap.
Yeah.
So they ended up backing out, so we can't get them. So we hustled. Fred had he got Warren Sapp, he got Dr. Amira, who was Channing's dentist. So it was really cool. She's married to a former football player. Then we got Beasley, and Beasley was the last one. He walks in and he doesn't want to do it, you know, because like y'all have a lot of stuff too. Actually, you know, this is a ton to shoot as well, and we have more. Right? And so he walks in and he's like, well, I didn't think it was this type of production.
Right.
And so we send Channing out, they talk, you know, they have a couple of drinks. And by this time I'm spent. And I was like, hey, man, if he does it, he does it. If he wants to leave, then it is what it is. And he sits down for like 7 minutes. He kind of can't find his words, and you could tell he's uncomfortable. And just like y'all do know, you know, man, you do your research, and we had a good conversation about it. and it's your job to be able to facilitate a conversation, but keep a conversation going when there is no conversation. That's your job. And we couldn't really get him in. And I knew he had went to a bunch of high schools. And so I was just like, man, how did you learn to build relationships and bouncing around like that young? And it just clicked for him. And he was like, I effing didn't. And then from there, you know, we have the interview. And so I think that's the interview that put us in the spot that we are in now that moves you to Shaq. And when Shaq sits down, he said, y'all ain't gonna make me cry. But then he talks about being the reason his marriage doesn't last. You know, that Kevin Hart comes on and shares the way he shares and says that, you know, our imprint and what we're doing culturally matters. It's because of Michael Beasley, because from there, people have now come on to our show and understood the type of space it is and the safety it is in sitting with us.
And that's definitely one of the reasons why I like y'all's show specifically, because it's like, with him, it's like I want to watch something that provide value to me. I don't want to go and just watch, you know, some silly stuff, something funny, to where it's like I want to learn about the guests. And for me, it was that Michael Beasley one for sure. That Kevin Hart one definitely spoke volume to me, just because it's like coming up in that space, you see what he's saying, where it's just like, you know, lean on each other, use each other to get where you know need to go. And it's funny that you mentioned, you know, the whole, you know, aspect of the podcast, because it's like a ton of people don't understand that. Whereas like a lot of things got to go right, you know, and even today, some things went wrong, but more things went right. And that's why we were able to get it done and things like that. But I've only experienced one time that a guest had to cancel on me. So, you know, hopefully it's not too many, but I did see that Drewski, that one was funny, because seeing him, you know, or you seeing him at ESPN that day. Right. And after he said he was flying out, I'm sure that one was, because it's Drewski, I would have laughed, but probably someone else, I would have been tight, and not even probably one of them on.
You know what, man? Like, I guess I get it in the sense that, like, I understand what we are asking people for.
True.
Right? We're not asking people who don't have anything going on in their lives. Right? Like today, like I have a Sunday schedule, right? Where I watch football a certain way. I do certain things as it pertains to work. You know, I'm gonna go back to the room, rewatch games. So I'll be, you know, so I'm just used to doing things a certain way. And so in order to do this, I had to take however much time this will be in making sure we had a place, all those things. You got to take that time to do it, you know? So I understand that. And in a lot of spaces where you don't have a personal relationship with somebody, that happens. You know, I've learned to not take it personally, honestly. I get it. And so in that, like, I wasn't mad at it. Like, I thought it was funny. Yeah. You know, whether it was him or anybody else. I think one of the things, the reason it's weird is because it's like we've had bigger guests, right? That have given us time and not done it. Like, it's one of those things. Right. Like, you think eventually you get to the point to where people don't see it as like a podcast. It's like, nah, this is a show that is different. This is a show that is helping people. This is a show that's done a certain way. And also, too, we've become a space where you can get out what the hell you want. Exactly, right. You know, like I tell people all the time, like, you can, I have no idea what the conversation is going to be on any show, right? So I don't have questions lined up, anything. I just really, what I try to do is I study the person, I study the guest, and I have a weird memory in the sense that if I type it or write it, I never forget it. Right. And so I'm studying, I'll type it down, and then I'll just sit my phone down. And because I can remember all the things, that's why the questions come. Because what I don't want to do is say, okay, this is question number 1, this is question number 2, this is question number 3. What if he ain't on that today? Right. Or what if what he just said can lead to a bigger discussion or a bigger question? I'm wrong if I just want to get out what I want to get out. Because clearly this is something you want to say. Clearly this is something you want to do. And that could affect people. That could give us a great podcast. So why am I trying to steer you my way? And that's what breeds conversations, you know? And so when he didn't do it, I was like, cool, you know? And then it came back around and he was able to do it. But that's the space we're in. And this is where media has moved. And, you know, like when we talked that day, I told you, man, it's about getting a guest that gives you the validation that people are like, all right, that's a show worth going on, right? Getting a guest or doing a show and people start to ask, why aren't they asking me? You see what I'm saying? Like that's where you got to get to, where people are calling you, hey man, we really want to get so-and-so on your podcast. And you got to say, okay, shoot, man, where are y'all? All right, if y'all there, we could try to do it here. You know what I mean? And I'll be straight up with you. It's some people who have told me they want to come on, and I'm like, we'll get it done. And it's not that I don't want them on, it's that I would take these other people who I have lined up before them. And I think that's the space you want to be in and the place you want to build to.
And I think someone like my girlfriend over there, it was the Jana Kramer episode where had nothing to do with sports. Well, I mean, her ex-husband was a former athlete. But that episode, she opened up so much and became so vulnerable. Did you always have an idea of expanding beyond just athletes? Because I think that's what makes y'all show. So
yeah, for sure. You know, it's funny. Representation matters, right? And we speak of that in our culture all the time, because there's so many rooms that for one point in history we couldn't get into. Mm-hmm. And by not being able to get into those rooms, our stories couldn't be told, or our stories couldn't be understood. Well, we're showing 3 black dudes that play football, right? There's a certain box that those group of individuals would be typecast in, or this is a black podcast, or this is this. Well, our producer, she's been nominated for 26 Emmys. She has 11. She produced Hard Knocks. She produced all of Floyd's All Accesses with Showtime. She still consults and sees that. She's a white woman. She's a white conservative. Right? She good people. Like Floyd's like her best friend, but she's a white conservative. And so she's obviously going to see life a different way than we see it, especially a different way than I see. I grew up in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so she loves Jana Kramer, loves her. I had no idea who she was. 0. And she brings her up and she was like, well, she's open about these things. And obviously it turned out I played with her husband, her ex-husband at some point. Never know him, never met him. That's how I feel. I'm just saying, never heard of him. And so she's telling us about the show. And as a black man who's married to a black woman, I was like, look, and we like 2 months old, you know? I was like, look, we 3 black dudes, you know? I was like, it's like, I know it's not like this for y'all, but our culture gravitates towards some things and makes them ours. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, They say, oh, this is great for the culture. Y'all representing the culture. And I was like, this is going to be our first woman, and we're going to pick a white woman. You know? And I was like, I'm cool with it. I was like, but we have to be ready for if there's some backlash or if there isn't some buy-in. And she was just straight up. She's like, I don't see y'all as 3 black dudes. And she's like, I'm around y'all all the time. She's like, I know it. She's like, I don't see y'all as 3 former football players. She's like, I see us as a space where anybody of any color, of any race, of any religion, of any belief can sit down. You know, and she was like, and in order for us to be that, we have to allow people that space. And I was like, cool, you know? And so what's crazy is, what's even crazier is like, I don't drink anymore. Chan stopped drinking the last month, you know, so it's like this weird deal. But that day was so stressful because we didn't know how it was going to go, you know? And I approached it like every other show. I studied, you know, but I didn't know how she was going to be. And so we probably started drinking wine, bro, at like 11. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like everybody was shook. Yeah. You know, like, and everybody, and we was at somebody's house who we knew. And man, so we do it, and like she comes in, and like her manager was there, who's a good friend of hers, was already there. So she hugs her. Then she like shakes Channing hand and shakes Fred's hand. And I was like, nah, man, I want that same love you gave your girl. You know, and we hugged, and then from there, it was just like, you could see that she was like, okay, cool, I'm relaxed. And I was like, good, let's have the show. And she was so open, but that's who she is. Like because now I follow her and I pay attention, she is an open book like that. So it was kind of the perfect situation for us, because she's okay with speaking, okay with talking. But it was one of those things, man, where, you know, people don't necessarily understand where you come from. You know, like, yeah, I'm a black dude, married to a black woman, went to Catholic school. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, like they played, which is odd now that I look back on it and understand who the Village People are. Like they played YMCA and Achy Breaky Heart at every high school dance I went to. You know what I'm saying? So like I got it and I understand it, but I'm also from where I'm from and I was raised the way I was raised. And so it's so many things that goes into it, man, but that's the piece of it for us is we want to be able to do everything. And I had a conversation with Emmanuel Acho today, which was a dope conversation. We became friends when he was working here. He's obviously gone on to do great things. Best-selling author, New York Times, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man during 2020 was huge, won awards. And so we were talking about it, and he was speaking about the episode we just did with Michael Hollins, who got shot at UVA, who's a childhood friend of my son. And he was just saying how great he thought it was. And he's like, and it's hard. He's like, not everybody can do news and do that type of content. And he said, and honestly, man, he's like, eventually, you got to be able to do interviews like that because you'll run out of famous people. And it's the truth. You know, like when we started and like we were just hunting for guests so badly because obviously they came from a different situation.
Right.
So it's going to be that competitor in you, right? We got to be better than them. And then I came from a world where I had never been in this. So all I ever thought about was content, right? Content and who are we in the future? And my big thing was, especially because I'm on ESPN, like, unfortunately, if you're on ESPN or you're on a network TV, you got to play a role, right? Like, I have a role there. Like, there's days I might go on TV and none of the dudes I'm on set with are funny. I get it. Like, that day, I'm going to be the only one that brings jokes or brings culture, right? Yeah. And then it might be like a day you're on where nobody's really, like, you know, you go on First Take, they not X's and O's. So now I got to be the X's and O's, and the energy and the entertainment. But on like the pod, like, you just get to be yourself.
You be yourself. Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do this 3-man shows, you know? I want to do like hard-hitting stories that people just listen to. But it was like numbers, branding. And so just kind of moving around in there, man, I think you just find your space.
Definitely. And you talk about, because we was talking about it on the phone when I called you, about the guests, you know, and it's about getting that guest and, you know, having people wanting to come on your show. And that definitely stuck out to me because then at that moment, I started to look at, you know, the guests differently. And we were fortunate enough to get Manti Te'o on.
Crazy.
You know, following that. And that was one of those things to where, compared to Candace Parker, to where it's like, he was like, we got to wait. He went cold on me for a minute because the Netflix doc was coming out. And so I didn't know about it at the time. And so he just went cold and I saw the trailer. And then he hit me back up and he was like, all right, like, he's like, once the release, we'll lock it in. So definitely understand that point of view. But back to, you know, talking about and wanting to have like hard-hitting stories, an episode I just did this past week was with Kim Ayali. So NFL agent, head of Rock Sports football division. And so for me, it was one of the ones that I was like most nervous for. And not that she was like the most popular person that I've had on or the most famous person, but it was just like, I didn't know where the conversation was going to go. Like, I didn't know if the energy was going to be good. I didn't know if it was just going to be me just reading off questions or anything like that. But it was honestly one of my favorite ones because for her to be a white, you know, a female NFL agent, you know, head at Rock Sports, she gotta have some about her. You know what I mean? She gotta have some culture about her. And so we talked about you a little bit, and she was saying like Ryan's, you know, he's a great guy. You had Saquon on and things like that, but that hit me because, like, having her on, it opened my eyes to, you know, being able to tell a story and being able to have anyone on from any background. And so she shared that, you know, all of her clients, or most of her clients, I think, you know, are African-American. She has Des Bryant, Ronnie Stanley, Saquon. And I was like, how do you resonate with these athletes? You know, you're not from the same background. Obviously, you didn't play football and things like that. And she was just like, I'm just open, you know, I'm honest. And she's like, I don't have a huge list, but I'm open to them and I'm relatable. And so that obviously stuck out to me. And so when you talking about all these things and, you know, where you come from and now, you know, having to play a different role, that speaks volume because now it's like you're so versatile. And so that brings me back to, you know, wanting to get to understand your story because for you to have, you know, this credibility and like to be on ESPN now and to go through the undrafted process, play for the Steelers, win a Super Bowl, have a podcast, be a dad, DB coach, all those type of things, it had to come from, you know, your foundation. And you talk about being from New Orleans, going to a Catholic school, you were in different pots, and you had to, you know, learn how to work them both. And so definitely want to, you know, hear about your story and, you know, just hear about your foundation that kind of got you to where you are today.
Yeah, I think it's like life is ever evolving though. You know what I mean? And your experience eventually, like your experiences are who you become. right? Like we all start as this piece of clay that's going to be molded by who's around us. My parents are still married. My son graduated from Arizona State this week. We threw a dinner at the house, yesterday. My pops is over at 6 o'clock because, he's going to boil all the seafood. My mom's is up. Like, that's just my family. And, like, we've just always been close. Like, that's always been important to me. My parents didn't lock the door growing up. And so we had, like, a little carport with, like, a little shed or, like, a little covering over it. The front door was locked, but that door was never locked. So if anybody ever rang the doorbell, we knew we didn't know them. Right? So, like, if people at my house and you hear the doorbell ring, everybody walked to the door because we don't know this human.
Right.
That was my house. And, like, that's the way I've always been. And my dad worked for the Levee District. And so what he did was, my dad, for 30 years or whatever it was, never left for a hurricane. For Katrina, I didn't talk to my dad for 2 months, right? Because they stayed at the facility because he had to work. My mom came up by us in Virginia. And so the way we lived life was my dad was like, everybody's okay until they tell you they're not okay. Like I don't meet a person and look at a person and think to myself, I can't F with dude or I can't F with her based off of the way she looks, the way she talks, her color, his color, right? Where they're from. You get to show me that. Now, once you show me, it's done, right? Like once I know, I know. But when I walk into a room, I don't walk into a room with any preconceived notions because that's what my dad taught me. And then my mom is just like in church every day, like legitimately every day. So much so, man, I remember Jordan, my son, asked her once, I was like, Mommy, do you listen to anything but God music? You know what I mean? Because he was used to being in the car with me. And so like that's my foundation. And then the rest of it, man, like I've had the hard conversations with people who aren't like me. And I've had people who aren't like me help me more than anybody in the world, embrace me in a way like other people refuse to embrace me, right? Then I've had like my people just be so down for me and support me so much. And then I've had our people too think I'm weird because I always talk like this, right? And because I went to the Catholic school, like there's no telling how people are going to treat you. But what I always want people to know is how I'm going to treat them. And I want to be consistent. My parents are extremely consistent. Whether you like them or not, they the same every day. Like if you don't want to hear about Christ, don't talk to my mama. Period. But you want to party, have a good time, eat good, be treated well, call my daddy for sure. You know what I'm saying? Like if my homeboys go to New Orleans and they got a game, hey, tell Mike I'm coming down such and such. I'm going to hit him up. Right? Like that's my house. And so that was just kind of how I was raised, man. And like I just played ball since I was 4, and I think when you play ball, you're put in different spots. And like I know that I'm privileged. And not the type of privilege that like we as black people rage against, right? No, I don't just get doors opened
right
based on nepotism or based on prestige or based on class. Like that wasn't what happened for me. But because I was always a straight A student, because I was always extremely respectful, because that's how my parents raised me, like people took a liking to me. You know what I mean? Like there's still dudes, the mailman, and I've told the story, the UPS guy in my mom's neighborhood played ball with me. And he was taller than me, and he was like faster than me, and he was bigger than me, like when we were younger. But, we get to the championship of Little League, I beat him. We get to the championship in Biddy basketball, I beat him. My team wins, you know what I mean? And he tells my mom, like to her face, like that should have been me. I was better than him. You know what I mean? And he's probably not wrong, right? He probably left the hospital with more, but like that's not it. But I also do realize that being that kid that the Biddy basketball coach is like, and they go introduce you to the high school coach at the Catholic school who's a Louisiana legend, and then he likes you, and then he meets you and says you're the one, even though he's like already had better athletes than you. You know what I'm saying? But could tell there was something in you, and so he pushes you, right? And then you get to college and they're the same way. And so it was just all these things that happened in my life, man, where people were just continuing to sow into me, whether it was at church, my mom and my dad, or whether it was my family who loved me, whether it was coaches. There was always people just feeding into me, and so it's taught me to be the same. You know what I mean? Like, I can be honest. you say yes to stuff, and then when it comes around, you're like, oh damn, I gotta do that. Like this. Like I'll be straight up.
Yeah.
You know? And more was my mindset with this. Jay hit me like, hey, would you holler at my boy about his podcast? Absolutely. Followed y'all, whatever. We talked on the phone. He's like, hey man, we want to do it. And I was like, cool. You remember last week, I was actually walking to my hotel.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, what time?
You hit me like, what time we doing?
What time you showing up?
I'm like, shit, I hope you still got time next week. I
was like,
think it was this week.
I just turned back around, went to work.
Yeah,
you know,
I was like, he texted me. I was like, I sent it to him. I said, man, he working way too hard. His schedule all mixed up right now. But no, definitely, because it was like I told him, I sent him this screenshot, and I was like, boy, I hope we got time next week. So then the thing today that happened to where it was just like, oh, we didn't get the room, and I'm like, oh crap! I got the video guys coming from.
We're gonna figure it out.
I got the video guys coming from Philly. Yeah. I was like, I'm in New York. I don't live in New York, but I'll figure out how to stay in New York a little bit longer. He right in Rochester, so he not too far. But we definitely was gonna figure it out. But I mean that hit me because you talking about just the respect that you showed other people and just a privilege in a way. Because I would consider that we are privileged too, just the way that you talked about it, because we went to a public school in a suburb, and then we went to a Catholic school, high school, but we were around guys who were getting offered and guys who were going to class every day and had both parents in the household and things like that, to where I think that's what made us who we are today. He went to Syracuse and played football, graduated from there, got his master's. I'll let him talk about that a little bit. And I went to Notre Dame. And it's like, obviously, kids from, the inner city, I don't even think Notre Dame, I love Notre Dame, but I don't think they recruit kids from the inner city. You know what's crazy,
bro? That was the one school I wanted to go to. I wish I had the pictures, man. I had the fake Notre Dame Letterman. I got it for Christmas in high school. They came down, I can't remember Brock's last name. I'm old, first off, class of 1997.
That's a good year, though. I was born that year.
They ended up, it's a great year. So it was like Stetson Bennett, and he's still in college. And they came down, man. My coach came out. We had to get like the actual tape then. And it was like, man, Notre Dame got your tape. And I almost cried because they were on TV every week. Right. And then growing up, I always played quarterback until I got to high school. Like I only started playing safety because I was starting on JV as a ninth grader at quarterback. And I went to a freshman game with my coach because me and my coach was tight like that. And they were getting bombed on. And I was like, Coach, I can play safety. I was like, I played, because when you play Little League, you play everything. Yeah. I was like, I could play safety. And he's like, but you want to play on the freshman team? I was like, yes. And I started playing it, play well, start the first game. It's how old I am. We finally played a team that ran 11 personnel in my sophomore year. It's the only, bro, until my senior year, I never played another one. They ran 11, and they was like, we need a nickel. I remember it was 14-year-old sophomore, and I was like, cool, I'll play it. And I got 3 picks. Never played offense again. You know what I mean? Like, that was just how it happened. And, when it came to, like, go to school, though, like, that's all we ever saw, right? Tony Rice, you think I didn't want to be Tony Rice as a little kid?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, a brother playing quarterback at Notre Dame, you know what I mean? Like, that was my goal, you know what I mean? And it turned out they didn't offer me, which is probably the best thing ever happened to me, because how the hell is my mom going to afford to go to Indiana every other week to see me play? And I went to LSU, man, but I think opportunities like that, close family friend of mine is Ben Morrison, who plays at Notre Dame now.
Right.
And it's like the perfect spot for him. His dad played for Washington. His dad was our chaplain, has a church. Like, it's the perfect place. It's the perfect place for some people,
Now, you went, obviously, parlayed that high school success into a scholarship to go to LSU, but you played at LSU under Nick Saban before he became the Nick Saban.
He was still a turd then. Wasn't no different.
But, like, what was he like back then?
I quit. I quit football at bowl practice my junior year. He got there, bro. He walks in. And that's what you got to understand. He wasn't Nick at this point. Maybe if he was Nick, like, things feel different.
Right.
Straight up tells us, we were sorry as hell, too. He was like 4-7. He's like, you know what? Y'all don't look like football players. I was like, well, dang. What we look like? It's 100 of us in here. And so that's what he says, man. And, you know, that year, my sophomore year, bro, I averaged 100 plays a game because I played every special team.
OD.
Nah,
That's crazy.
I played every special team. I had 110 tackles, 11 pass breakups, 3 picks, right? So, you know, like, I'm finna be that guy. Like, I'm not even tripping. They tell him, got to talk to Ryan Clark. Like, if you want to start meeting the leaders, he's the guy. I always worked hard, everything. And I go to the meeting, and I'm ready to be praised. Like, you're going to be my guy, my go-to, whatever. He just crushes me for like 30 minutes. And I walk out like, dang, that really wasn't what I was expecting. And so, man, we go through the season, and, you know, I told y'all, like, how my mind works. It's even crazier with football. Like, you put it on the board, by the time we go to walkthrough, I got it all. I can line everybody up. I can tell you what the tips and tendencies. I can tell you what we're going to get 3x1, X nasty, back far. I can tell you anything. So I'm making all the checks. It's bowl week. You've seen me do this the entire year, right? I'm all conference. So we had a check. You know, y'all don't know this. People listening ain't gonna know what the hell I'm talking about. 21, right? So we play zone auto. If they come out in I-back, easy I-back pro, you know what you're playing. You know where you rotate. We're gonna buzz to the tight end, right? They come down in slot. We're gonna check sky, easy. The only other thing was if they motion out to 2x2, we check sky that way. You know what I mean? We check sky that way, we carry the seam. Because, you know, if you go play cover 3, whatever. He comes out, and I'm late. And I say the wrong thing first, and then I check it right. So just, you know, I make a call. Oh, check. All fine. It's freaking bowl practice. Season's over. Bro, he goes ham on me. Mother effing me. Ooh, like going crazy. And I was like, I got it, you know? But to him, if he's in the middle of cussing me, me saying I got it is cutting him off.
Yeah.
Like, shut up. That's the way he takes it. So he just goes at me harder. And I'm still in the spot of like, hey, man, I'm one of the best players on this team, and I've been doing this for you all year. Like Pete Jenkins, who's the legendary D-line coach, always makes the joke that in the first year, 2 people knew the defense, Nick and me. And he was like, in walkthrough, when something happened, the whole team would just look back. And I just tell him. So for me, I was like, this, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like being in a relationship and being great in a relationship, and you forget to bring your old lady the food one night, and she act like you cheated.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's how I felt, you know? And so I took my pads off, like literally. I took my pads off, and at the time, we dressed in the stadium. So we bust to the fields. Took my pads off, bro, and I was walking home. I was like, I'm done. And Carlton Buckles was our grad assistant, and he stops me, and he goes, you can go to the league. Don't do this. He's like, you got a shot. And so I go talk to him. Like, we have a meeting, and I ask him, I was like, bro, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, why you treat me like this? I was like, I do every single thing you ask me to do. I was like, I play hard, I work hard, I'm always on time. I was like, everything I'm asked to do, I do. I said, I'm not asking to be treated special. I said, just treat me fair. And he said, he goes, a lot of times I'm talking to everybody through you. He said, I know whether it's a game, practice, whatever it is, whatever I tell you, you can digest it, you can rebound from it, you can perform. He said, not everybody can do that. He said, so when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to the rest of the people around you who I know can't handle being talked to that way, or I know who can't handle being coached to that way. He said, because I know I won't lose you. He's like, but I also can't lose them, and I still got to get that message across. And I was like, well, hell, you should have told me that junk before. Right? Like, tell me that on the way to practice. Hey, man, today, I'm going to cuss you out. All right, coach, cool. Go and do your thing. And so that's who he was, man. But I learned so much from him. I played really bad for like a stretch my senior year. You know, like everybody who ever played the position, like I wanted to win the Thorpe, right? I wanted to be drafted. I wanted to be first team, all SEC. And my senior year lined up that way. It was Ed Reed, Ryan Clark, which ironically was the exact same rankings in 1997's Louisiana safeties. Ed was 1, I was 2. Came out together. We decided where we were going to school on a bus on a 2-lane visit that our coaches forced us to go to. You know, preseason All-Americans and all this, and it mattered so much to me. I just put too much into it, and I cared so much. And he like pulled me into the office one day, man. He's like, I've never seen such a good player play so out of character before. And I kind of explained to him why, and he was like, And it's like, man, Coach, like nobody does nothing. I was like, you know, we're not making plays at corner, this and this. It's like, I feel like I got to do everything. And I was like, and I want to be great. He's like, just play like you always play. He's like, it'll happen. He's like, I've had more players drafted late or not drafted at all play for a ton of years. He's like, you'll play forever. And now it's kind of, you know, type of dude he was. He knew when he couldn't treat you a certain way. And he understood that, and he treated people accordingly.
And now we talking about, since we're talking about LSU, obviously they had the new coach, Coach Kelly, Brian Kelly. And that's funny, the story you talk about wanting to go to Notre Dame, and now he comes from Notre Dame down to LSU. I'm sure you checked him out this year, and I would say
we met.
I would say they overachieved and everything. But what's your take on?
I think he's an amazing coach. I think he's an amazing coach. I did not like the hire, and I was very honest about that. When the players walked out in 2020, and Coach Orgeron didn't march with him, or they kind of walked out on him. Coach Orgeron didn't want to go really meet with them after to figure out what the situation was. Obviously, Coach Orgeron expresses his immense love for former. You know, y'all might want to like blank that out because I know it messes up YouTube and stuff. I'm just saying, we just been through it. When he does all those things, who do they call to go talk to the boys though? Me. You know, when you got to do a diversity survey for the entire athletic department because the way that the athletic department's been run isn't conducive to providing a space where minorities feel like they have opportunities, where minorities feel like they're supported. When somebody has to stand in the middle of the floor of the PMAC to make sure the people that aren't us understand how we should all be respecting and treating one another, who do they call? Me. And so I was hoping for someone who I thought could relate to people like us and like a young Ryan Clark in a better way. I still don't know if he's that human. But I said when they hired him, if he stays, he's going to win a national championship because everybody does. And when I say everybody does, people like laugh at it like it's hyperbole, right? Like, Ryan just thinks anybody can win there. No, it's an actual fact in this millennium, right? You get Nick Saban in this millennium, national championship, right? So one older white guy leaves, you hire another older white guy that was at Oklahoma State. Guess what he does? He wins the national championship. It's been found out what he was doing at LSU was so dysfunctional and it was so toxic, they fired him from his other job because of it. But he won a national championship.
That's right.
But he won a national championship.
Right.
Ed Orgeron ends up getting fired purely based on incompetence. Purely. Nothing else. Because they loved him. You were perfect. Nobody could understand what you were saying. It was super down south and bayou. You wanted to be there. He got fired purely because he didn't understand it. He might have coached the greatest team in college football history. That guy.
Right.
Like that dude, you know? The dude that said, oh, how much I'm getting? Shoot, get my money, I'm gone. Think about that.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me Brian Kelly, who wins everywhere he is, and he's not, and now he's in a place where you legitimately do not have to leave to recruit because of the talent. The name recruits itself ain't gonna win. Hell yeah, that man gonna win. And I said that. But for me, I wanted something different. I wanted someone who comes in, understands our culture, but understands the things that we deal with. That I felt like if a young Ryan Clark is going through something personally, could sit down on the sofa and not relate to me, but can point me in a direction of being better and would care about that. I still don't think that's him, but I also know he wasn't hired to be good to those boys. He was hired to make sure that that organization or university was ran professionally, that there was an adult at the helm, and that they won football games, and that guys had an opportunity to graduate. And I believe he's going to do all of those things. I just looked at it deeper than that. But I think he's done an amazing job. Jaden Daniels is my son's knows everybody, but Jaden Daniels played at Arizona State with him. I was very happy that he came.
Right.
And, they did a great job in the transfer portal. And they just coached their butts off, man. And so I'm really excited about the future and the trajectory of the program. And they just going to keep getting better players.
Yeah.
The recruiting class is amazing. They're going to hit the portal again and get some good players. And so I think sky's the limit for what he can do there.
And you talk about that role, being a player or being someone that could, have those tough conversations with people who look like us. There's some players that you've played with, like Joey Porter, and, your relationship with Mike Tomlin and things like that they're coaches now, your mentors maybe, and some people that you, like I mentioned, that you play with. Is there going to be, coaching in your future? Because I know you do DB coaching.
I don't know, man. I want to. I think it's just so much time. I retired from football because my son was going to high school, and I wanted to be around him and help him do that. Obviously, he's playing college ball, so it's not like if I want to be getting ready for my game or for a game the next day while he's playing. And I think you take the time off, and then you realize there are other things you could do. Like there are other things that you're good at. I don't know. TV is not my passion. Like I could be honest about it. It's actually pretty darn easy too. Like I love football. I know how to watch football. I know how to talk about it. The podcasting has been, I think, a more creative space for me. I got some other things I'm working on just in the space of storytelling that I think I'm passionate about. Doing the DB coaching helps, right? It gives me like that. It scratches the itch of coaching. It's all I ever wanted to do. When I got cut from the Giants after year 2, I was working at LSU. I worked for the Tiger Athletic Foundation, which is basically like the fundraising organization or sect of LSU. But I had when I got the call to go try out for Washington, I just went up to Muschamp to tell him I wanted to be a grad assistant. I've always wanted to coach ball. Then you realize, well, shoot. If I go coach now, what if I'm like on a staff with like this dude who never played DB or who truly doesn't understand DB coaching? Like, can I look at myself right now and say I have the humility, and this is just an honest conversation with myself, to let him tell me how like these DBs should rotate or how they should play press coverage or how the safety should leverage the ball in the box. And listen, the greatest coach of all time is Bill Belichick. He ain't never strapped the pads up in the league. So it's not like I'm stupid and I don't understand that, but would I have the humility? Or can I humble myself enough to get paid a lot less to work a lot harder than I am now in the hopes of becoming a head coach? And so I just think, it's about your purpose. It's about your passion. It's about the ways that you can do that. And I think right now I'm in a space to where I can do everything, a little bit of everything, And so I like being there. My wife is like probably not going to have it either. Just being honest. She really is like a superwoman, I can't say that being married to me is easy because like I had to do things a certain way. She knew we wasn't going on vacation after May, period, anywhere, because I had to train. She knew that, and she accepted that, and she was okay with that. Like, she knew I was going to be up till 1 a.m. studying every night. She knew I was going to get treatment 5 days a week, and the one night we were going to be able to go out and eat, whether it was as a family or whether it was me and her, it was Friday. Then Sunday after the game, we could all go. Like, her life was structured around football. And then, to her, she was like, well, I have you now because you've retired. But I retired at 35. And I played a long time.
Right.
But I'm 35. And then, you have this other gift, which is the media. And it's like, okay, do you not explore that? Do you not try to see that to its fullest potential? But in doing that, I don't work at home. I live in Louisiana, right? I'm here right now, right? So I'm working on TV. Then I shoot a podcast. But then you do the podcast, and it's like, holy hell, this could be huge, right? So do you not do that all the way? Well, you can't do everything all the way. You know what I'm saying? You just can't. It's an impossibility. So you can't be great at ESPN. You can't be a great podcaster. Can't be a great father and truly be a great husband, right? Like something slacks. And unfortunately for me, if I have to be honest, it's being a husband because like she just did everything anyway, you know, and she made it look easy. And so now like you look up, like you're 43, she's 42. And it's like, damn, like what have you done to her and where have you put her this whole time? And then I'm a man, right? And eventually I'm just like, but damn, like look at all the stuff we got.
Right.
You know, but you meet somebody when you're 17, you know, and she ain't got much and you ain't got much. Then you go to college and y'all ain't got much. And then you start raising these babies where y'all ain't got much. Like when she can say to me, I would love you if you have nothing, I don't have to guess. Cause she did. No. Everybody likes stuff. You know what I'm saying? But for her, the stuff is not as important as having me. And so those are like the different conversations I gotta have as a whole. And if you ever get a time, it's a very misogynistic book written called Way of the Superior Man. And I say it's misogynistic because it's truly all about like men, right? No, it really is. But it's when you step back from reading it, it's true. It's really about masculine and feminine energy. It's not actually about men and women at all, right? It's about what we, as the masculine energy, are attracted to, right? Now, this could be two women, and one of the women has, so it doesn't matter what it is. He just says in the book, like, I had time to go through all that. And so it's in the sense of, like, it says it that, like, as men, like, we chase purpose, right? We chase our passions. You know, we are more fulfilled when we feel like whatever gifts we have in, you're fully giving them to your wife or to your significant others, but we give them to the world too. And it says like feminine energy doesn't work that way, right? Like they are truly about intimacy. They are about connection. They are about emotion. It's not the same for us. And so, whereas I'm like, nah, like you should look at the way I grind and the way I work and what I'm willing to sacrifice and say, this is the type of man I want to be with, which it is, right? It is like she does love those things about me, but none of those things serve her if I ain't never home. And so like, and so now like it's almost like gift and a curse. I have all these things I could do because I could coach. Like it wouldn't be hard for me to get a coaching job. And it's all these things that you could do and you have these gifts that God has given you. And it's like, in trying to take advantage of those things, do you miss one of your callings, which is taking care of your family in a way different than money?
And even knowing that, like, so now what is your approach? Because you say you can't give.
My approach sucks.
But I would say you can't give energy because obviously like she's going to be there, you know, till the end, you know.
Is she though? Don't know. I want her to. Like, I don't know if I would stay with me forever acting like this. And so, like, that's part of it, bro, where it's like.
But just that thought won't make you slow down. Because I'm looking at it to a point where it's like, I don't have a girlfriend right now. And
she probably thinks that.
And that's probably, and that's the reason, because it's like, I'm so purpose driven right now to where it's like, I don't even want to, like, put energy there to where it's like I gotta focus, I gotta give you energy, I gotta do all those things because it's like right now I'm trying to like I'm on a mission. It's trial and error. Like I'm throwing stuff at the wall and you know hopefully it stick.
Can't throw at the wall with your old lady though.
That's what I'm saying. So you got stuff that's stuck on the wall and you might have to take some down. Is that?
It's part of the conversation. It's part of it. My wife is finishing her master's in psychology now. She's always trying to psychoanalyze me too. I wish she'd did something else. Why don't I do accounting? Don't tell me, well, Ryan, let's look deep into that thought. I don't want to look deep into the thought. I like the surface. On the surface, you have pissed me off. But, you know, nah, man, I think about it for sure. And in a perfect world, you can do it in a way and give your time when you have it in a way and hope that it's enough, right? It's so crazy because obviously your woman wants to be your priority, right? But she actually doesn't want to be your purpose. I guess like a very simplistic way to look at it would be Like you ever watch and it's in the book actually, like a war movie. And like the woman's crying because the guy's like about to go off to war. And she's like, I don't want you to go. And the dude actually doesn't want to go either because who wants to go to freaking war?
Right.
Right? But it's like, it's his purpose, and it's what he signed up for. And it's like his greater good. It's his greater level of achievement, right? And then like she cries, everybody kisses and hugs, he hugs the kids. But like when he walks off, like she's so proud because she knows that like that's his purpose. And she's his priority, but not his purpose, And I think my wife understands that too. I think the hard part for her is it's hard to say that somebody has like multiple purposes when clearly football for a long time was that, right? But football was just more my passion, right? That's not necessarily my purpose. Football was my passion that has now set me up for my purpose. Now how do I go serve that purpose? But it's difficult when you had these 3 little babies that you had to run around with all the time, and the only day I had was Tuesday because that was my off day to take them. And then in the off season, in the off season, it was lovely. I love carpool. Like I was racing soccer moms. You ain't gonna beat me. You will not be first. Like I loved all that stuff. But then once training starts. And so, the hopes are, and you don't live forever, obviously.
Right.
And so what we do all the time is say it's gonna change, right? My wife ain't gonna change. I'm not necessarily gonna change. All we can do is compromise. And, I'm trying to tell her like, but look, babe, like now in doing this podcast, I'm showing like this whole separate level of skill I don't get to show on ESPN, right? This next endeavor that I'm pitching, if I get that, that's just another level of that. And eventually maybe I ain't gotta run up here 70 days a year. And I don't have to do that. So now I'm serving that purpose. But if I don't put this grind in now, like how do I get that? And it's like trying to get her to see that now and be a good husband. Like my wife wants to travel. I hate travel.
That's funny. Travel all the time.
but that's why I hate it.
Yeah.
And also too, I always feel like it's something I could be doing.
Exactly.
Like I can only sit by the pool for so long.
Yeah. I'm not a big beach person for that reason because it's like I grew up in Cleveland. I didn't grow up on the beach, so it's like. To me, it's like, why am I sitting on sand?
You know how I feel about vacation.
In the sun, hot, we're looking at water. So,
but women, do you love the beach?
I love the beach.
You see what I'm saying?
I love it.
For why? They want sand in their feet. Well, first off, I have a ton of melanin in my skin.
Yeah, I'm good on
Don't
the
need the
water.
sun. Just
no more sun.
Just make me hot.
Yeah.
Just make me hot.
But
I tried to snorkel one time with Troy Polamalu, and he Polynesian, so they must be able to do it better. Because once the water came down the little tube, done with this.
Done with it.
That's stupid.
Can't breathe.
no, because that's great that you brought him up.
Almost drowned cave diving.
Because
we supposed to be able to walk through the cave. We got to tread water. Then they gave me a little stupid dang airport blow up.
One of them joint,
Bro, and it's like, it's fresh after COVID. I'm not finna put my mouth on this.
Yeah. No, and it's crazy because when you snorkel, you go, like, before the directions don't even matter. Because it's like, they tell you the directions while you sit in the boat, everything calm and everything like that. And it's like, all right, bet. You get in the water, as soon as you go under, that whole breathe in, breathe, like, it don't even matter. It get clogged up and it's over with. I'm swimming to the top and it's over. It's done.
Stupid, though.
Exactly.
Like, why am I going?
Mm-hmm. And I hate, one of my biggest fears is sharks. So it's like, why would I even put myself in that position to potentially be like taken away by a shark? Even though it might not happen, but it's
not going to eat you though. It's just going to bite your limbs off.
I'm good on that.
They don't think.
Painful way to go.
Like
we don't really taste good to them.
I had a few injuries in football, and so like those was enough. So like me missing limbs, like from a shark, I'm good. I don't need that.
Honestly though, too, it would be the level of like anger I would feel because I know I only did it for you.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Like I would truly like if I was walking around with no arms, I would resent her like every time, because for a little while you got to adjust that you don't have them.
Yeah.
Like every time I walked in the kitchen in the morning and I wanted to grab a cup, and I couldn't grab a cup.
Yeah.
I would literally storm to the room and be like, "See, it's your fault. I can't get no damn cup because of you." But can you come get this cup for me? Because I really want some coffee.
But even going on trips like that,